This story begins like most stories, with a man and an idea. The man is the Reverend Dr. Leon Finney Jr., grandson, son, and namesake of famous entrepreneurs. Dr. Finney has devoted his professional life to the cause of urban America. His approach was and is to organize voice for the voiceless and power for the powerless. His pragmatic philosophy is rooted in the high ideals contained in the sacred documents which frame our American democracy. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without regard to race, color, creed, or station in life. His lifelong effort is to make a real difference in the lives of the average citizen for whom our nation was formed. He has succeeded beyond expectations. His ideas were initially developed while serving the Woodlawn Organization, first called Temporary Woodlawn Organization. The people called it TWO. No matter what the initials meant, founded in 1960 by the deceased organizer and social radical Saul D. Alinsky, and first led by the now Bishop Arthur Brazier, pastor of the Apostolic Church of God, the group began as a grassroots protest organization, waging community war against the real estate plans of its neighbor, the University of Chicago.
There were two main concerns that we were organized to address at that time. TWO was organized to protest merchants who were taking advantage of the customers in Woodlawn. But the main reason was TWO's opposition to the expansion of the South Campus of the University of Chicago.
The mobilization of black people at a grassroots level through which they had a vehicle to express the power of numbers.
Well, Woodlawn at that particular time had inherited an essentially middle-class group of people that lived in what we call Central Woodlawn, which was from 63rd Street to 67th Street, from King Drive back to the lake. Those people were a victim of urban renewal when they started to build Lake Meadows and Prairie Shores. So they were relocated to Woodlawn. And so the University of Chicago started talking about urban renewal and Woodlawn, and it just ticked those people off because they were victims of urban renewal.
Voter registration drives and confrontation were its initial methods. But over the years, as it gained power and influence, TWO expanded its approach for social change to include community development and human services.
The TWO was responsible for getting it started the way it is. Woodlawn came from absolutely nothing. We had you had the taverns, you had to get rid of that. You had to get rid of the prostitution, you had to get rid of the gangs, and you had all of those things to get rid of before you could really work at bringing it back.
Well, I think he's always played dual roles. I think that I think his best strength is in organizing and facilitating. He's done that very, very well, but he's always, even in doing that, been in a leadership role because he has been the CEO of many organizations and run those organizations that have impacted the community. So I see him as having a dual role, and as I said, I think his greatest strength is in his organizing ability and his ability to move people from point A to point E to get a job done.
Well, he's been able to step to the plate when it needed to be stepped to.
I think the TWO story really need to be told to show what can be done with good, committed leadership And if there's a story to be told, it's a story about commitment. It's a story about finding a good fight and getting in it. Okay? And they've proven it. And the fight goes on. But the difference is now it's a fight between gentlemen. There are still fights that's going on between TWO and the University of Chicago, but it's not, there are rules in the game right now. There's a respect that is developed. There's a mutual respect that's developed. And that's what it's all about.
Today, as testament to its success, it has developed 3,200 rental affordable apartments at a cost of $175 million. It manages 7,100 rental apartments throughout our city and state, employs a workforce of 425, and serves tens of thousands of people.
But our first and most significant reason being involved with the Woodlawn organization is we feel we're contributing and participating in the benefits to the community, to the city of Chicago. If you go through the areas in which the Woodlawn organization has developed and maintained properties and given places for people in which to live respectfully and beautifully, you can see that Lakeside Bank is really benefiting with the Woodlawn organization and the people that live there, because it's win-win for everybody. So, yes, it is commercially beneficial, but more than that, it's spiritually beneficial that we're so happy to be involved with them. And we hope that we can continue to do more projects with them.
Over the past 5 decades, TWO and the University of Chicago have transformed their adversarial relationship to one of mutual support, collaboration, and partnership.
The model that TWO has evolved to is an unusual and interesting model. It's a model that includes social services, it includes commercial development, it includes residential development. And I think it recognizes the importance, if you want to rebuild communities, of working on all of these problems.
Many years before gentrification became an urban trend, TWO understood the need to organize community groups to constrain residential displacement and limit outside intrusion. Under Dr. Finney's leadership, the organization pushed hard to increase the stock of affordable housing and for residential management that was more sensitive to the needs of Woodlawn's residents. As noted earlier, to accommodate these goals, TWO created the Woodlawn Community Development Corporation as an umbrella for its real estate development and management activities.
Well, I think TWO and WCD's mission has always been to engage in sensible development. By that I mean, when we grew up in West Woodlawn, it was a neighborhood of stability. And although it was segregated on the basis of race, everyone lived there. We had doctors and lawyers. My father was a professor. We had entrepreneurs. We had people living on public housing. And we had number runners. We had a stable, diverse community. And I don't think Leon has ever forgotten what it was like growing up there. Or indeed our high school, which was Hyde Park High School, which was diverse and the top high school in the city.
In its early years, TWO had to navigate between criminal street gangs on one side and institutional forces trying to colonize Woodlawn on the other. This combination of social forces has been a fatal tandem for many other community groups. But TWO, first under the leadership of Bishop Brazier and soon after Dr. Finney, steered a steady and pragmatic course. And now, as TWO nears its 5th decade of existence, the organization remains as relevant as ever, perhaps even more so.
Well, I met him as a young man, and he had energy, a nice spirit, and he believed in change. The actions of the Woodlawn organization was the first time in white Chicago that you would read a front-page story on a black community and a problem with the black community. And TWO brought a face to white Chicagoans. That there was a group on the South Side that cared enough to fight for their rights and were tired of being dislocated in urban renewal.
He certainly has worked doggedly, I would say, for the people of Woodlawn, but in so doing, it's been for the betterment of the entire city, for the advancement of African Americans, economically disadvantaged people, regardless of race or ethnicity, throughout the city of Chicago.
He's a history teacher, as well as a man involved in the struggle. So we respect him and appreciate him, and we give our support to him. When he calls us, we try to be available to do what we can to help make life better for all humankind in these very, very difficult times.
He's not just a talker. He's a walker. He's a coordinator. And he coordinates men, women, and young people. So, and he worked very hard. It was not because he didn't put in what it really takes to make a candidate. He put in his time, his talent, his money. He put all of that in. So I'm very respectful of his leadership.
Leon is a person who had